Welcome back to Studio F, where on Fast Times Willy B, we'll be reviewing Twisters. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Rush!
Welcome back to Fast Times Willy B. I'm Willy B. I got Keaton here. Keaton, how we doing?
Good, how are you, Will?
I'm doing good. So today we'll be reviewing the summer blockbuster, Twisters, with an S. Directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Not a director I'm really familiar with, but we did get some cast members that I am familiar with. A lot of them, actually. But
yeah.
Our three stars in this one are Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar-Jones, and Anthony Ramos. We also get, appearances from Maura Tierney. We get Kieran Shipka makes a little bit of an appearance there at the beginning. So, a lot of recognizable faces in this one that it was nice to see,
I will say, it was a little different for me. I didn't recognize most of the actors in this movie.
Not even Glenn Powell?
No, I recognized him. In fact, from the trailers and whatnot, I thought Glenn was going to be like the
main character.
The main character.
Yeah.
But, he was like a supporting character, but still.
Yeah. We'll hop right into the good, and there's a lot of good to break down.
Oh, absolutely.
This one had a similar feel, and I said this to in my out-of-theater reaction. This one had a similar feel to Top Gun Maverick, in the sense that you got this sequel that's... I wouldn't say long-awaited, because I don't think anybody was, hands and knees begging for a Twister sequel.
I wasn't expecting a Twister sequel.
Yeah, but... getting it, you're not mad. And so it's highly anticipated. It's the movie of the summer. People are chomping at the bit to see this one. You got Glenn Powell, who's really been making a name for himself in movies. Daisy Edgar-Jones, who in my opinion is a very underrated actress. And, the excitement level's there.
Yeah.
And they didn't let down.
They didn't. Honestly, from the beginning to the end, I was completely drawn in. I'll be honest, because, Turbo and I, we would talk about this movie all the time within the past... 2 months now. So ever since I was like, Will, I got a movie, I want to go watch with the Twisters.
Yeah.
Turbo and I would talk about it all the time at work, I'm excited to see it, but I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yeah. I
was wrong. It was fucking amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, and that's almost how Top Gun Maverick was too. are you gonna... I personally think that the original's a little overrated. I think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's this icon that everybody makes it out to be.
Right.
I thought Maverick was far better, but it was that, that anticipation, you're very hyped for this movie, you're ready for it, you got stars to cast Glenn Powell in that one as well, you got Miles Teller, you got, Tom Cruise is back, but you hope it doesn't let you down, and that's how Twisters was, you've got this classic that it's coming after, and you're just this whole time you're hearing people, the excitement, you're hearing the buzz, you're just I hope this doesn't let me down. And again, it didn't. I think that this movie, in my opinion, I'll say this right off the bat, I think I like this more than the original.
Honestly, I can't blame you there. Definitely going into this movie, kind of, similar to what I just said when I was talking to Turbo, leading up to watching this movie, I was expecting a decent movie. I was expecting going into this movie, sorry.
You're good.
Going into this movie, I was definitely expecting to be it was alright, I still way prefer the original. I'll be honest with you, I can't decide if I prefer this one or the original more.
Yeah.
I was, towards I would say the middle of the movie, I was this is pretty good, but I still kind of prefer the original.
That's how I was in the middle.
And that's, once I got to the end, that's when I really started to take off my nostalgia blinders and be no, this might actually be just as good as the first one.
The third act is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way this thing concludes and is all wrapped up is really well done. Going into this movie, I was okay, just give me the thrills that we got in the first movie with better effects. Because I think the only thing that really sucks about the first movie, because I love the first movie, and I just saw it for the first time right before this.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great film. But obviously, the special effects were a little weak. The Twisters look cheesy.
They do.
And it's tough to say, it's the 90s, because 3 years before that, we got a Tyrannosaurus Rex in Jurassic Park that looked absolutely insane. So it's hard to say like, oh, it was the 90s, because there were things being done then that looked really good. And obviously the T-Rex wasn't all CG, like there was animatronic.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a different comparison. But I'm just, making a point that the Twisters almost lack that scare factor at times when they really hone in on them in the first one. And this one, I know sometimes they say bigger ain't better. Bigger is better in this one. Those Twisters were insane.
Dude, they were. I mean, seriously, like, well, so, kind of like how you were saying, the original movie's great and all, but you said, the original, I almost said Twisters, but yeah, Twisters, tornadoes, they weren't as scary as the ones in this movie. I mean, that's one where I beg to differ a little bit from your end. I think the Twisters are scary in both the old and the new.
Well, let me rephrase that. The Twisters that you don't really see in the first one are scary. It's when they really hone in on the look of the Twister, and you can tell it's obviously effects.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because like the opening scene where we get that, that EF5 and it sweeps the data, you don't really see the Twister, but that is insane.
Well, the thing was that, like, because again, I've watched Twister I don't know how many times since I was probably 6 years old.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was always like intrigued by tornadoes. I would always look up like tornado videos on YouTube and stuff. But like they just, when I was a kid, that movie, like, I loved it, but it like scared me at the same time.
It's because of the realism factor.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, and it could be that like cheesy 90s effect, but like the tornadoes in that movie literally had like a roar to them that like freaked me out when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's another good for this movie. Obviously I love the design of the tornadoes. The effects were really well done.
Oh, absolutely.
It looked like we were watching real life tornadoes on the screen.
Yeah.
They looked monstrous. But the sound design on them, when they would like get the camera just on the tornado and zoomed in, and you would hear the wind, the roaring winds, and
oh, dude, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it felt like the theater walls were gonna start coming apart, because it literally felt like we were in a damn tornado.
It doesn't help that the third act is a theater being torn apart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
But like, no, they did a really good job with the Twisters. I think the effects were great. The sound design was fantastic. And again, they looked monstrous. The tension, anytime there's a Twister on screen, except for the first one where, he goes in and shooting off the fireworks, that wasn't really a tense moment. But when it's supposed to be tense,
yes,
the tension, like there was times where I was like crossing my feet and I was like pulling back.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. And then I'd catch myself. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a grown man.
I know. No, I loved that part. I mean, it was silly. The tension wasn't really high. It was really goofy.
Yeah.
But I loved watching.
The fireworks stuff.
The fireworks going up in the tornado. That was so cool.
But every tornado after that was really like the rodeo.
It had my heart was beating.
Yeah.
I was like, because like you didn't know where it was gonna go.
Got a little alert on the watch. Hey, dude, your heart rate's up.
Yeah. Well,
that rodeo Twister was probably my favorite.
That was like probably I would probably say the scariest in the movie. Are we allowed any spoilers in this?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Spoiler alert is on. Yeah.
Yeah. So the part where they, the tornado touches down. They're at the rodeo. They're all evacuating. They go into that motel, and that lady, she's like arguing with the motel clerk.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What are you doing? We got to take cover. Get out of here."
Yeah.
And so I forget. I'm terrible with names. What's the main actress's name?
Edgar-Jones.
Yeah.
Kate.
What's her character's name?
Kate.
She looks out into the empty swimming pool and she's like, we gotta go.
Yeah.
And they go under there and like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad for that one guy. It was
the
like
clerk.
Was it the clerk?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was so hard to tell. There was so much shit going on.
Yeah.
That like soda machine fell on him and he was stuck.
Yeah.
And Tyler, he's going to help him. And, you're thinking, all right, yeah, he's going to save him. It's looking good. He gets him out from under the like soda machine. And, the guy, he goes like, don't let it get me. Don't let it get me.
Like, stay down.
Stay down. He's like, you're going to be okay. Well, he wasn't. He got sucked up. And
he didn't stay down.
Damn, dude.
But that scene really showed how monstrous these tornadoes were.
Yeah.
Like that, this is a real hell. that is faced in Oklahoma.
It's a real thing.
I had to look up after the movie. I was like, how many tornadoes really happened in Oklahoma? Because there was a lot of tornadoes in this week's span.
This week's span, you're like, we saw like
9 tornadoes.
9 tornadoes, yeah.
But there was 82 in the first 5 months of this year. And I was like, okay, I guess
that makes sense.
I guess that's not very inaccurate. Like that's a possibility. I don't know if they'd have been as I think they got a couple. Well, I guess the first 5 was 5 years before the second 5.
Right.
But I mean, we've got some big ones. Like I was
absolutely,
they tore up some towns. I'm like,
well, I mean, and it's like watching this movie. I mean, it's thrilling, it's exciting, but at the same time, it's kind of sad because
I teared up a few times.
There were a couple moments where I was like, damn. I mean, this actually happens in real life.
The scene where we find out the mission from Tyler's standpoint, in the sense that they're selling the T-shirts to buy food for the people that just lost everything, and then that's when Kate's starting to find out that her friend Javi, his business is kind of corrupt, and on the other side of
the true colors.
Yeah, and I think that scene was very powerful because it really it pulls on the heartstrings. You're like, man, at the beginning of this movie, you're supposed to hate Tyler. Well, yeah, and now he's the good guy.
They show them off as these
smug, almost as the Jonas of this movie.
Yes, yeah, they're all cocky and they come in and
they cut him off just like Jonas does.
Yes, and that's actually something I noticed in this movie. You kind of get a little bit of a contrast to the original. In the original, your protagonists are the redneck group who don't have all the fancy gadgets and the big money. But in this movie, she's with
Javi and
Javi. Yeah. She's with him, and they have all the money. They have all the fancy gadgets.
Stormpar or whatever.
But then they're not the good. I mean, they're not the good guys. I mean, you know what I mean. In the original, the people with all the big money and the fancy gadgets, they weren't good either. But it was a little different this time around.
Yeah. She starts out with the bad team. Yeah. By the way, opening scene was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
A great way to really make you feel bad for our main character.
Yeah.
And almost, drop the jaw off the rip.
Well, I really liked how they didn't really show you who the main protagonist was going to be of the movie. Because at the start of the movie, I was like, I was thinking, okay, these you got your college kids are chasing this tornado. I'm thinking they're going to make it out alive. They're going to be fine. Because I thought those were the guys in the trailer that were chasing the tornado. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're going to live. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
No. They they go under that bridge, and I mean it was sad. Kate's, I think it was her boyfriend.
Yeah. Seeing 2 of your friends and your boyfriend just be sucked up by this.
Well, I mean, they're hiding in that crevice. You think they're safe. They're going to make it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember her boyfriend's name, but, he's like, I got you. And the tornado literally just sucks him out of that crevice. And you're like, whoa. I mean, it was a big turn of events.
Yeah. This movie doesn't shy away from showing the devastation that tornadoes can cause. The heartache. But at the same time, another good for this movie, comedic timing. There was a lot of heavy subject matter, a lot of heavy hearts, and you're weeping a little bit, but there was also really well timed comedy.
Absolutely.
Glenn Powell was as charismatic and
he was my favorite
stellar
character
as ever. Shout out to the acting as well. I mean, I think our top 3 all did a very good job, but Daisy Edgar-Jones was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Glenn Powell continues to impress. I just did the Hitman review a couple weeks ago, and it's like we're still talking about this guy.
Right.
He's making a name for himself, and I'm glad that he got that summer blockbuster.
Absolutely.
Like you said, not lead role, but basically as lead as you can get in a supporting character role. But the acting was great, and the comedic timing was really well done. The writing in general,
it was amazing. I loved the story.
Yeah, it was a great story, easy to follow. The pacing was really well done. And it really continued, it is a sequel, and it felt like that because, in the original they went through, 4 Dorothys, and then this one they're starting with Dorothy
5. There was a 5th one, yeah.
So
I liked, again, that was another callback I liked. I was like, oh, this is just like a continuation of the first one.
So, the first one, they're really trying to figure out how to figure out more about tornadoes by getting inside of them, and this one, they're like, how do we stop them now that we've gotten inside of them? And I think that's a cool continuation, and that's another thing Top Gun Maverick did really well, was continuing the storyline.
Right.
And enhancing it even at times.
I was wondering, again, going into this movie, I was wondering where the storyline, like where this was going to take place, because unfortunately, Bill Paxton, I think.
Yeah.
I always get Bill Paxton and Bill Pullman mixed up. Yeah. But Bill Paxton, he passed away 2-3 years ago now.
Recently.
Unfortunately. So I was like, oh, well, that sucks. It would have been cool to have Bill Paxton again. Yeah. And then I forget the actress who did Joe. Oh, is that her name?
Yeah.
I thought it would have been cool to have them in there, but,
I was wondering why Helen Hunt wasn't included, but me and my buddy were doing research, and apparently she's, like, deaf now.
Is she really?
Like, not completely, but I guess it makes it harder to do things.
Yeah.
Because she had I can't remember the exact medical condition, but it caused you to lose your hearing faster. So I don't know if that had anything I don't know if that was the reason she didn't do the movie, or if she was even asked. But I saw that, and I was like, maybe that had something to do with it.
Probably.
But yeah, I was in the same boat, because that's the easy, like draw, like Top Gun, Tom Cruise is back. Like,
right.
Like, bring back the legacy character.
Well, and my assumption was, I thought what they were going to do was they were going to have, like Bill and Joe have a kid, and now their kid is like the leader of this storm chasing team. That's what I thought they were going to do, but it wasn't.
It was still a sequel, but they developed new characters.
It felt like it was a part of that universe.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely was.
Yeah.
And, these new characters were easy to follow along and root for, especially Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell, Kate and Tyler. Javi, I think, had a great character arc in the sense that...
He had a great character arc,
You can obviously tell he kind of has a thing for her at the beginning, and then 5 years pass, he brings her back in. He's kind of corrupt, but she doesn't know it. She finds out, and then he's like, what am I doing? He had that self moment where he
eventually comes to his senses, and he's like,
what am I doing? I gotta help these, commits manslaughter along the way. Oh my God,
I wanted to punch his the guy in the passenger seat. What?
Superman.
Yeah, Superman.
I actually don't know his name in this movie.
I literally I don't even know if they mentioned his name like once.
They definitely said it at the beginning. Yeah.
Superman. But I wanted to punch him because he was like, no, dude, like, fuck the people. Like, we got a job to do. Let's chase this tornado. He's like, no, we need to help the people.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, it's either the people or this tornado. And he stops the car and he's like, all right, get out. And, he goes to grab the equipment and he drives off.
Yeah, which is basically manslaughter, but we'll ignore it because it was morally correct.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yes, this movie was very well done. I think it was well shot. I loved the tornadoes. I think they all looked good. Like I said, bigger is better, and we get even more tornadoes, I feel like.
Yeah.
Which I know, like... that's like the trope, like, oh, let's make a sequel and just make it bigger and more bad.
I was just going to say, last time we only had one, but this time we got like 5 tornadoes all at
fire.
Once. Yeah.
But like, they did it really well. This is one of those cases where you could say bigger is better.
Oh, and speaking of, fire tornadoes, that last tornado, or I think it was second to last tornado, when it caught on fire.
That was the last tornado. That was like the third act.
Yeah,
chased them into town.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many tornadoes, it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
But no, it caught on fire, and I was like, whoa!
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I thought Javi was a goner.
Yeah.
I mean, I really thought he was going to die.
I thought so, too. Which would have sucked, because...
Like, he wasn't a bad guy.
No,
he was just doing...
But if he died right there, it would have you would have been left with him at his worst.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have had his redemption yet.
Yep.
So I'm glad that didn't happen, but yeah, man, a lot of this movie falls in the good.
Yeah,
it was a very good film.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else in the good that really stuck out to you?
I feel like we mentioned most of it.
I say just about everything, but
yeah, I mean, it was everything I really wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that I wanted a Twister sequel.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. But we'll hop over to the meh, and the few things I don't have anything in the bad.
I'll start with this.
There was nothing bad about this movie, but I do have a few things in the meh. The one is, and this is where the first wins. The first Twister, 1996. Something I loved about the original is when they tie themselves with leather around, and that's keeping them from the tornado swooping them up.
Yes.
And this one, like, they're barehanding. In the movie theater, Glenn Powell has his foot around a thing. I'm like, I don't know if that's keeping you out of a level 5 tornado.
Yeah. That was a little questionable. I see what you mean.
So the strength our characters have is something I would say, like,
right.
These guys had to tie themselves to a pole that was 30 feet deep. This guy's holding onto a movie theater chair by his foot and holding somebody.
Oh, yeah.
So just things like that were a little inconsistent. But again, it was few and far between, so it wasn't enough to really hinder my watch experience. The other thing I'd also throw in here is a nitpick, and that's when, Daisy Edgar-Jones in the final act, Kate, she defeats the tornado. Her science project works, and the tornado is evaporated by this sodium.
It sounds kind of silly to say, but it defeats the tornado.
There's chemical compounds. I promise it's official.
Right.
But
she was throwing hands with this tornado.
No, her dream, the science dream she has, comes true, and she gets out of the car and she is like beat to all get out.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, she's being dropped off the airport, which you can only imagine is like a day later because this movie takes place over the course of a week.
Right.
And she has not a scratch on her face. I'm like, dude, you just had blood.
Yeah, there was like a little continuity error, I guess you could say.
So that was just the other thing. Again, a nitpick. Nothing that hindered my watch experience, but I'm like, maybe a little gauze taped up here or something. Like you just got out of the hospital, you were just taken by an ambulance, like something like that,
Yeah.
But that's really it. Like, as far as story and, like, characters and acting and everything like that goes, it was really good.
And not to keep going back earlier in our conversation, but, like, again, I remember, again, Twister it's one of my favorite movies, the one from 1996.
Yeah.
That was, like, one, it's probably in my top 20 movies.
Okay.
And I know, like, you would say 20. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies over the years, but no, it's funny. I would talk to people, and most people like Twister, but there were a few people that were like, I didn't really care for the whole like marriage drama thing, getting a divorce, and I'm not gonna lie, I liked it because it kind of gave the characters depth in the original.
It did.
It gave a story.
It made you feel bad for what's her face, the therapist,
the fiance.
Yeah. She kind of got shafted in this. She's taken to the tornadoes against her will, and then
and then dude, I felt bad for her.
Yeah, but no, you could get a little bit of a romantic element here too. Like in the quote that we get at the beginning is, "If you feel it, chase it," and we get that with Glenn Powell chasing down in the airport, and then they kind of team up because the weather won't let her leave.
That's right.
It's a great ending. Great ending. They did set it up in a way, I guess, you could do more.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
I'm cool with leaving it alone, personally. But
yeah, like, here's the thing. It was a great movie. If they can do a sequel that is just as good or, almost as good, sure. I'd love to see it. Yeah. But
just don't
if it's not going to be good.
Getting Jurassic World on us.
Yeah, just leave it where it is.
Yeah. Did you have anything in the meh? Or is everything for you in the good?
So, funny thing was when the movie started, just when the movie started, before, all hell breaks loose and people are literally dying.
I think I know what you're going to say.
What?
Like something you have in the meh?
Yeah.
Is it the title sequence and the score kind of sounds like a horror movie?
No, not that.
Okay.
So funny thing was,
I heard you chuckle when they popped up Twisters, and I was like the Conjuring title sequence.
Oh, yeah.
I heard you chuckle, and I was like, I think Keaton liked that.
Right. No, so funny thing was, I was afraid when it first started. I was like, oh, great, here, we got all these college kids, and they think they're these professional storm chasers, and they're like, we're gonna catch some tornadoes. And, I was wrong. I know that sounds bad, they died. I'm so glad. No, but
it makes it realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I was really thinking this movie was going to be a bunch of college kids, just becoming storm chasers and everything's a party, which, I mean, it kind of was at the beginning of the film, with Tyler and his team, they were goofing off and stuff, but it quickly became serious.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really nothing else for me to complain about.
I can't think of anything that I can really nitpick.
So we'll up to our final thoughts and rating then. One final thought that I have that I guess I could have thrown in the good, but I just thought of it is I liked the YouTube element.
That was cool.
It made it modern.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing I guess I was also worried about was they were, you have a movie from 1996 and then, 30, my math is terrible.
28 years.
28 years
almost
later.
30, yeah. Almost 3 decades, yeah.
Almost 30 years later, they decide, hey, let's make a sequel.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, great, this is going to be a modern Twister, everything's going to be about social media and like, I did like the YouTube aspect, how that like the redneck storm chasers had like a YouTube channel and they were like, y'all asked if we could shoot off fireworks in a tornado. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought it was
They didn't overdo it though.
No, they didn't. Because once we start getting down the path of like, oh, she has this project on how to destroy tornadoes, YouTube takes the back seat, which I think was really good.
Yep.
Any final thoughts, and what do you give this bad boy out of 10?
Honestly, I probably give this a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you give the original Twister? I mean, if it's top 20, it's probably going to be close.
I'll be honest, I think I gave that one a 9 out of 10 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say both are just 9 out of 10s. I think both, they have their differences, but they do it so well. Yeah.
Also, shout out to you for saying, like, top 20 is insane, because people don't realize if you watch 1,000 movies, your top 50 is your top 5%.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, like, I also think people don't realize how many movies they've seen.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a big movie buff, throughout your life, you've probably at least seen maybe 100 movies.
Well, if you've seen 100, like, your top 10 is your top 10%.
Yeah,
like, that's high regard.
That is, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think this movie was great. I think I'm going to teeter this one just by a hair. I gave the first one, I'd probably go 8, 8.5. The reason I say I think I like this one more is because I left the theater thinking, and here's my score, solid 8.5. I didn't have to teeter between 8, 8.5. I was like, this is an 8.5 out of 10. So that's why I think I'm going to lean towards this one, and that might change the more I think on it, but in this moment right now as we record, I'm going Twisters on top.
I was expecting to walk out of the theater, before we went and watched it, I was expecting to walk out with like it was like a 7.5 out of 10, which isn't bad, but like, no, it was, I came out and was like, that was a 9. That was a 9 out of 10.
I think I did a good job at setting the bar at a good spot, in my, going into the movie before my before theater reaction, I said, my expectations aren't too high, even though I've heard nothing but great things. I just want, great thrills and better effects.
Yeah.
And I think that allowed me to have this watch experience and, not going into it with as much high hopes as maybe some might have.
Yeah.
But, it's a summer blockbuster and sometimes those can flop. So I was like, let's just go in and have fun.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with this film.
I'm definitely purchasing it when it comes out on Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. But anything else before we wrap this one up?
Not that I can think of. All I can say is, hey, thanks for having me on the show.
For sure. For sure. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
But that'll do it for Twisters. Keaton, thank you again, brother, for coming on.
Thank you.
It was a great time talking about giant tornadoes. Thank you all for watching. If you like what you're watching, please check out some of these other videos. Hit the subscribe button or follow the social links down below. Anything is appreciated, and we will talk to you all soon. Peace.